You told us there about the initial diagnosis, which was quite protracted. You fought, if you like, to get that diagnosis, and you eventually found out you had that myeloma. And myeloma is one of the less common cancers, about 3% or so of all of the malignancies. What's it like initially? You described it, but in emotional terms, to be diagnosed with cancer, would you say?
Well, even at the thought of death, I used to sort of break down in tears, and it was very, very emotionally, very, very difficult, and there was no support available at that time. When I was given the diagnosis, and that's it, and they focused on the treatment. So what I actually used to do was, when I used to go to the clinics, for the myeloma clinics, I used to talk to people around me to get an idea of where I fitted.
Yes.
Some were worse off than me, some were better off than me. Some didn't want to talk about it. But a lot of them actually wanted to talk about it, and then it made them feel better. So I used to always make a point of trying to talk to someone.
So you sought out the contact from other peers, other patients.
Yes, that's right.
And generally you found that quite useful.
Yes, I found that quite useful, and then I started looking on the internet about myeloma, things like that. Then I found Myeloma UK website was very, very informative.
So what did you find out about myeloma? What can you tell the viewers in essence?
Well, myeloma is a disease of the bones, and it is the plasma cells which go wrong, and these cells, or the white cells, and they usually are the only sort of reproduce to actually create an antibody when you have an infection, and then after they've done their job, they're supposed to die away, but possibly some of them don't die and stay dormant, and they actually sort of come back, come back again, and in a form of cancer, and they crowd out the good cells, and also they destroy the bone from the inside at a higher rate than the repair mechanism. So that's the sort of things I found out, and I couldn't actually find out what the cause of myeloma was. It was very sort of broad. It was actually either radiation, exposed to radiation, or chemicals, or some sort of a viruses or anything like that.
I mean, essentially, people don't know. They don't know the cause.
No.
Like most cancers, the cause not really known, other than associations with certain factors in the environment, like you said.
Yeah. In my work experience, there was a radioactive sources at the workplace.
You worried that might have contributed?
That might have and there was sort of chemicals, but like I say, if it can't be pointed down to any particular the cause of it, then it's just guesswork, really.
Now, what people might not know about myeloma, one of the things is that it tends to spread beyond the bones in many cases. Yeah. In other words, it can become a systemic disease, which means different organs, different parts of the body can be affected, usually by a buildup of abnormal protein, such as amyloid. And have you met people or had any tests yourself which have indicated that that has happened at all?
The tests that I've not met any people when I got first diagnosed with other organ damage. Yeah. And the tests they were doing for me was that they could actually, because the myeloma, it excretes the calcium into the bloodstream, the excess calcium, which could damage your kidneys and things like that. So I've always been tested for the other organs functions, and like the kidney function and things like that, and in my case there was no other damage apart from just the vertebrae.
So let's come on now to what treatment you had for the myeloma, because I understand basically you had two phases really. You had the illness in 2006, which was fully treated and went into remission. But you did have a stem cell transplant then, didn't you? And then you've had a more recent recurrence of illness and treated again with a second stem cell transplant. So what have you been through in treatment terms so far?
On the first time when I was diagnosed, the treatment was actually called VAD, and it was actually in a form where there was dexamethasone, and also there was actually 2 solutions that you actually used to have a pump. I had a Hickman line put in here, and this pump would actually pump the chemotherapy into the line, and also take a course of the in a course of dexamethasone as well. This was actually sort of like a once every for a week, once a month. So after a course of that, the cancer the paraprotein hadn't come down. Well, it had come down, but at the same time, what they actually done was give me some radiotherapy on the vertebrae that was affected. So we couldn't tell whether it was the radiotherapy that actually brought the paraprotein down. It come down from about 37 to about 19. Or was it the actual chemotherapy? So it was conflicting. So then it stayed around 19. So I think it was actually they concluded that it was the radiotherapy that was up to the area that brought the paraprotein down. And then had a break. Then I went on to thalidomide-based chemotherapy, which was actually CTD, which was dexamethasone, and there was also thalidomide, and the other one I can't remember now, but there was 3 drugs anyway, but they're all in tablet form. And this was an 18-week cycle, and that brought the paraprotein right down to about 2.1 progressively, so that was working. And then after that, the progress was to do a harvest stem cells. So once the chemotherapy was out of my system, then they actually done this stem cell harvesting, which they harvested enough for two stem cell operations. So by this time, in 2006, this was coming on to about a year on. So it was about November 2007 that I actually was given this stem cell transplant. But at the same time, followed by about 3-month gap, one of my fellow colleagues that I met at the Royal Infirmary, who I used to work with, a previous workplace, and he had got myeloma, and he was actually going through the same treatment as I'd actually gone through, and I was actually acting as a support for him at what to expect at each stage. And
so that was quite useful, because you you not just got that contact from other patients who you got information from. You had a role as a source of information and help and support too. That's
right. And I felt that I actually had to do that to support people, because when I got diagnosed, and used to talk to the other patients next to me, and an amazing thing happened is that I actually came across an Asian gentleman, and he was about similar age, perhaps a few years older than me, and I spoke to him, and he says, I said, have you got myeloma as well then? He says, yeah, I was diagnosed 10 years ago. So that gave me a lot of hope.
Yes.
It did. And then I met him, that gave me hope. Then I met him again on another clinic session, and he says to me, he says, what are you worried about? I've lived 10 years. And then, just like that, my depression, the whole attitude towards cancer changed, And I've never met the gentleman again. And I actually sort of opened up to my workmates because they were anxious to know what was happening to me. And then through meeting this person, I actually managed to start accepting it and living with it and then moving on.
So it sounds like there were two phases really. One where you were burdened by the idea that your life was very limited. You had been told that the outlook, the prognosis might be just a few years.
That's right, yeah.
But then you had it from a real person who, you know, had myeloma too.
That's right.
Their outlook was actually very good.
That's right.
And you began to believe that yourself.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And then I say I managed to sort of talk to people, opened up, share my experiences, and it's everything is actually in the mind. You can actually sort of make it as the sea, big as you want or little as you want. And then once you actually start talking to other people around you, you find you'll be surprised how supportive they are, whereas you think in the opposite way around. There's more supportive people than people with negative views towards you.